The power of nature coming in here. I wonder if I can get down there to see the water through the hole. Well, it's almost 2 years since this hole was blown in. And we can see it when we go around, or we can go over to here and see it from the other side. We get another angle on it. It's amazing, you know. Water seems to be a soft thing, but what you need a barrier to protect something from heavy waves and a storm. That's fascinating to see the structures human beings have to build to keep back water. Actually, we won't be able to see it too well from here because the stairs is blocking it. We can get a glimpse of it. You see, there's a hole right there behind the stairs. A big breach in the wall, like a cannonball did in bygone times when invaders tried to breach the walls of a city. What are the most memorable conversations you've ever had, like the most memorable people? Some conversation that really made a big difference in your life. Some encounter with somebody and they said something and light bulbs went off, or you changed your attitude. It's good to ponder that. A conversation can have a marvelous impact on our lives. Sometimes it's a major speech that turns a country around. Some famous speeches are Churchill's war speeches in the Second World War. I'm reading a book about the friendship between Lloyd George and Churchill for almost a year now. The author was here and gave me a copy, and he was actually I think a great grandson of Lloyd George. And it's a fascinating book, and the encounters they had, and sometimes conversations also changed them, but it was a reference to speeches and to the rhetoric of both of them and also other people in history. It's the famous speech of Kennedy at the Brandenburg Gate in Germany. And that's probably one of the great gifts politicians have, leaders have, is to cast words and to speak. And good morning.
Good morning.
You want to say hello to the world?
Hello, world.
Well, you're not on the camera yet, you know.
Oh.
I'm doing a live stream.
Oh, no, I'm
Okay.
scared of the world.
No, don't be scared of the world. They're our brothers and sisters.
Oh, yeah, they are.
I talk with the whole world every morning.
Oh, how can I watch?
Oh, well, why don't we look for each other? When are you leaving? You're staying with us, are you?
Yeah, but I leave
This morning?
Yeah, at some point.
Okay, do you use Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube?
YouTube.
YouTube?
Yep.
Okay, so let me give you this. Your phone is on you?
Yes.
Take a shot of my card here
Perfect.
and just put in my name.
Smart.
There are other people did YouTube videos with me, so some of those might come up.
Well, that's
but you
fine.
want to look for the channel, my channel,
Okay.
with my name here,
Yes.
Raymond Kelly. Okay?
Okay, great.
Wonderful.
Awesome. Yes. Well, have a great...
Now people are going to hear this conversation on that YouTube, so you'll be able, people will already, if they recognize you, sometimes that happens to me. I'm someplace and people say, they look at me because of my voice, if they hear my voice, as they recognize the voice.
Yeah. Well, God bless you, Father.
So your voice is already going to be recognizable worldwide now. Somebody will meet you one day and say, were you on that YouTube video? it's interesting also that our voice has that recognizability. You recognize your parents' voices, and it's totally different, father and mother, brother and sister, and even if they're twins, you know. If you're, well, I don't know, I won't speak too much to that, because I also have a problem distinguishing twins, like identical twins, obviously. And it's probably no wonder I don't have big guilt because of that. Who can distinguish identical twins? So there are major conversations that have impacted the world. If Mark Antony gave that speech that turned around the hearts of the Romans to go against the murderers of Julius Caesar, then that was a very, very powerful speech, you know. And the way reality is interpreted by politicians, like you have some fundamentalist politicians, they're able to stir up people, let's say for nationalistic causes, and they can get whole people activated through their rhetoric to revive old wounds, issues, claims, and lead to major civil disturbance and war. Also, if you look at a movie and you take out the music and you just hear the words, the music makes such a difference, you know. The words might be poor. There's a great combination in conversation. It's not just hearing the sound of that guy now, but if you saw his face and if you saw his reactions when he said, no, I don't want to talk. So he was communicating with his eyes and with his hands. And in a certain sense, we're talking about the readings today, people. Because the greatest conversation we can have is, let's say, a mentor has, people that are following that mentor, that are being guided by a mentor. And a conversation with a mentor can be a very powerful thing, can be very helpful, can open up an area of life. A great moment, there can be a particular conversation that spouses had that changed a lot of things. I know a couple where that changed a whole life and rescued a family, a marriage, and there were 6 children in that family, and they were salvaged from going down the road with alcoholism. And that conversation saved the family from that. That conversation, that mutual understanding of the spouses to change some habits. And they were both very invested in that. One of the partners had a real problem with drink, and this was very, very, very serious, very, very tough situation, and there was a lot of poverty as well. And that family really was a thriving family. I knew a number of them, and the good that they have and their children and grandchildren have done in the world is amazing. So good conversations, great conversations. So what's the greatest conversation you have going at the moment? The ultimate conversation started with Adam and Eve realizing God was speaking with them. And since Adam and Eve, God has not stopped speaking to us. And like that guy now a few minutes ago, his encounter with me, and in a certain sense with you, he said I was afraid of the whole world, you know. He already said a lot about himself. And there was beautiful warmth and joy in his voice. There was also a moment of fear. No, I don't want to talk on the camera. Okay, we respect that, of course. You know, but there's so much there in an encounter. So much in an encounter. A little word of encouragement to a child, to a sick person, to an older person, to anybody. Even an athlete, a business person that's in a very big crisis, because of changes in the economy, like all the things that happened during COVID, how many important conversations happened to cope with, not just in the illness, but also the way decisions were made about handling it and how to survive in that very adverse climate for business, very adverse climate for activity, for work, for income, very adverse climate for family life, locked up in the 5th, 6th, 7th floor of a building. How many conversations were very important there? Maybe the human being, we got back a little bit more to conversing because we weren't able to run around doing all kinds of stuff. We had to look at each other in the eye. We had a bit more time together, and that was also trying and testing of us, and also forming us and helping us to grow. And the ultimate conversation that's going on is God's conversation with us. That's the ultimate conversation in creation, since we were created. And there's some major moments in that conversation. And in a way, God is continually speaking to us, like He had the sun rise this morning for us. This is a huge gift. Because conversation isn't just the grandparents coming over and saying hello and giving a hug to the child, but it's a little present, a little teddy bear, a little toy, a gift. But maybe more important, the gift of the teddy bear is the gift of the smile, the gift of interest, playing with the child in the game they prefer. And before there are games, there's hunger, there's need for protection from the weather, inclemency, all kinds of things. And this is what God is great at. Well, He's great at everything. And just as the rain comes down from heaven and gives so much abundance, I love these lines of Isaiah as a farming boy. We got too much rain in Ireland some of the time, but some of the time we didn't get enough. It was funny, 3 years buying water in the summertime for the cattle. We didn't have enough water, we had to buy water. Imagine in Ireland. 3 summers is probably about 68 or 69 to around that time, the end of the 60s. We had to go to a lake and bucket it out of the lake into barrels on a truck. Just as the rain comes down, I don't have to explain that here in the Middle East. There's always a lack of water here. Just as the rain comes down and all the different flowers come, the trees grow, the grasses grow, the vegetables grow, so my word comes and has effect. So God's word is like the rain. Like one of the big challenges in our conversation with God is to figure out how God is speaking to us. And the sunrise is one way to see it. Creation, the fact of our creation. Look at your hands, the gift of your hands. Yesterday, a priest arrived with a group of people from Mexico and told us about a marvelous school. He's a chaplain at the school, and actually a priest who joined the seminary with me in 1974 in Ireland is the director of the school, and apparently he's very innovative in education. And these children are just barely teenagers, and they're already inventing equipment for deaf and dumb people to translate all they're saying and trying to say. A computerized system, they actually brought it to a show in Philadelphia. And then there was another one, that the project they invented was a detector for the forests to alert when there's the slightest beginning of fire. Amazing that these kids are doing it. They're working on teamwork, they're working on ecology, they're working on always with the criteria of service to humanity, not just to do something that'll make a lot of money. And these projects are just purely experimental projects. It was marvelous to hear this. You know, the capacity of communication, the capacity of encounter, the capacity of involvement. And God is bringing His word into our hearts, and it should bear fruit in all kinds of ways. And that's the first reading of Isaiah. And the rain softens the furrows, and the clay becomes workable, And the seed has a habitat with the rain where it has the moisture, the water it needs to grow, and it brings its fruit. All these trees need that water. They're pretty well off here because their roots extend into the lake, so they're not going to lack water, you know. And that's why they grow. And we're up here, there's very little. And so that's like our souls. When we don't feed our souls the water, when we don't supply the water to our souls, or when we're not listening. And that's the gospel message. If the seed is falling on this kind of ground here, this road, or falling on cement, on concrete, or on metal, it's not going to grow. It's that simple. And then the responsibility we have to get into this conversation, because God is always talking to us. He's not shouting at us because he respects our freedom. You could say in a way he's shouting because of all of creation, like the gift of creation. Like the grandparents are coming with so many gifts and the child is in a sulk and doesn't want to speak. Or then the older person is hard-hearted and doesn't want to be there in a fight with somebody in the family and wants to punish everybody because they're in a bad mood. And so all of these experiences we have help us to understand how God speaks to us. It's amazing. These people are speaking as well. I don't know how to understand their language. And I'm sure they have serious thoughts that we need to listen to, engage with them, you know. And people know how to do that. I'm very limited there. But if I meet them, maybe they can explain it to me. So let's delve into God's word and let it bear a lot of fruit in our lives, people. There's a lot more to be encouraged. Just read the readings yourself and you'll just love. The sower went out to sow seed. God bless you. See you later, alligators.